It's time for the 49ers Rush Podcast. And here's your host, John Chapman.
What is going on, faithful? Hopefully everybody's doing very, very well, because here's the deal. We have football this week. This calendar week, 49ers are going to be playing. It's Sunday. They have the afternoon game. Now, bad news. I hate to start it off this way. Probably not going to be the nationally televised game. So if you're not a local, just understand you got to make plans. Sunday tickets a thing, man. You're going to need it more than ever because you can't go to the bar down the street. So figure out a way to make sure you can watch this game. And just as always, for those new listeners, and I do want to say I appreciate all of you, we go live right after the Kyle Shanahan press game conference. So that's just what it is. So as soon as the post-game press conference ends with Kyle Shanahan, we go live everywhere. So we'll be live on Hot Mic, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, everywhere. So just kind of prepare for that. That's what we'll be doing with instant reactions from the game. Now, there's not going to be any play-by-play. As most of you guys know from last year, we did get totally shut down for that one. So unfortunately, I don't get to do that. The NFL flexed their muscles, of which I have none. So legal prowess-wise. Now, we've got a fun episode for you today, and I do want to say shout out to the Countdown crew. This is not a live episode. Main reason why is we completed our moves. The Chapmans have moved into our new house, which is great, but the internet is not great. So we've got technicians coming out currently, but I said I was getting an episode out on Tuesday, and if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So I'm recording this and then posting it after the fact. I love live shows just because the instant communication back and forth. So I hate that it's not there, but I do want to say thank you, Countdown crew. This still counts for our giveaways that will take place at the end of this month. Now, here's what we're going to do this week, or this episode. We're going to go over the practice squad. We're going to cover all the people that were brought back, but we're going to get a little nerdy, okay? Contract knowledge is awesome. I used to teach law for a long time. I love this kind of stuff. Just the ins and outs, the bylaws, the different rules. And not only do we have a new CBA this year, so there's already modifications to what we're used to, but then the whole COVID negotiations between the NFLPA and the NFL added to a whole new plethora of information and different stuff. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty, and the 49ers are the most well-informed fan base in the NFL, and it's not close. One, you just look at all the different podcasts. You get a bunch of nerds like me out here. But I want you to understand the implications of what it is that takes place with the new IR rules, new practice squad rules, how you can have 55 men active, but there's only 53 players on your roster, and protecting 4 different players, and what all those means, and jumping into all those things. So stay with us. We're going to go over a whole bunch of names. We're going to go over a whole bunch of different stuff. And this is again, you want to know whenever you go to work and you're having that, water cooler talk about football and stuff, you're going to be the most informed person after this conversation. That's the goal. So you can help all your fantasy friends and all the stuff going on with whatever it is that's going on. So here we go. Let's look at the new practice squad rules. And again, if you don't have the athletic subscription, strongly recommend it. I'm not part of that, but their information is amazing. You look at Matt Barrows and David Lombardi, probably two of the best that cover the 49ers. They do a hell of a job. So here's the deal. The practice squad this year has 16 spots. Now, the new CBA that got voted on, it was 10. It bumped it up to 12. Then COVID happened. Right? Then they added 4 more spots. So we're up to 16 spots. That's great. And this is a huge advantage for the 49ers on several accounts. One, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they use the practice squad more frequently, and they use it the correct way to develop talent better than anybody else in the NFL. So we've got 16 guys. Now, the good news is all 16 guys, which we'll get to the names and go through all that stuff here in a little bit, all 16 guys were with the 49ers during some point of training camp this year. Kyle Shanahan is the most loyal coach in the world. If you have played for him and his system and he feels comfortable that you understand his system, he rewards you with future contracts of teams and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you just look at this roster, it is just peppered with people that he was with in Atlanta and in Washington. So if you make the practice squad with Kyle Lynch, we should start that. We need the t-shirt, the Kyle Lynch shirt. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, you will be rewarded at some point. So very, very important. Another new addition, and I hope they change this to be a permanent thing. 6 veteran players are allowed to be on the practice squad. Now, traditionally, you have to have 2 or fewer accrued seasons to count. Now, what's an accrued season? Used to mean that you would have to be active for 6 games. Then it got bumped down to 5. Now it's bumped down to 4. So you have to be on an active roster for 4 games throughout a 16-game season to count towards the season. Now, those accrued seasons are important for veteran salaries, minimums, but more importantly, retirement. You don't get to retire unless you've had 3 accrued seasons, which they bumped it down from 4 to 3, which is huge. So we get 6 vets, and again, the 49ers were able to secure 6 vets, even though some of them said they wouldn't. That is awesome. We'll look into who those names are and what that looks like. Also, on top of that, each team, now this one has so many different subtext to it. Each team gets to protect 4 players on their practice squad. Okay. Now, as I hit record, my phone went off, and I hate to have my phone on, but this will let you know I'm recording this at about 3:15 on Tuesday. And here's the deal. They just released which 4 players that they are protecting. So the 4 players that the 49ers chose to protect week 1, this is a revolving protection thing that goes out every single Tuesday. Okay. Center Hronis Grasu, he made the practice squad. Cornerback Dante Johnson. Why did they do this? Why did they do this to me? I swear to God, there is somebody in the 49ers front office trolling me. Cornerback Dante Johnson gets protected. Yeah, I know he knows the playbook. He's probably going to be a coach. He's probably an amazing human being. But good Lord, I do not want to see him play for the 49ers ever again. He is protected. Defensive end Dion Jordan and wide receiver Kevin White. Now, here is how the protection works. Every single Tuesday, you get to pick 4. Okay, every NFL team gets to do this. Now, this does not mean they can't be claimed. Okay, what it does do is it starts a clock. So if nobody claims any of these 4 players with their waiver wires or whatever, nothing happens. They stay on the 49ers practice squad. But let's just say hypothetically, the Seattle Seahawks put in a waiver claim for Dion Jordan. Say they lose, one of their edge guys, and Dion Jordan gets claimed. So now there's some options. Because the Seattle Seahawks would be awarded Dion Jordan if the 49ers do not promote him to the active roster. So let's say the 49ers just choose to keep Dion Jordan, but they do not protect him, or they do not promote him to the active roster, and they keep him on the practice squad. Then it would be up to Dion Jordan to cancel his practice squad contract with the 49ers, then go with that new team, which would be the Seattle Seahawks in this case. So it's not like they're ironclad part of the 53-man roster. It's basically we have our 53-man roster. Nobody can touch anybody on there. And then we have a revolving door of 4 guys that you can kind of somewhat protect, right? You can kind of make it difficult for teams to get them. Now, and here's where it gets crazy. Again, remember, to protect them, you have to promote them to the active roster that week. If you do not, the day after your game. So again, we protected these 4 guys. Sunday, the 49ers play. They do not promote Dion Jordan to the active roster. That means they can get claimed. Okay. Now, if we do promote them, let's say we do promote Dion Jordan, but then put him back on the practice squad the following week, then basically, again, Seattle can go in and get him. So you have to promote them and keep them. And I kind of like this because it gives you just an extra buffer to keep these guys, but you don't get to keep. If somebody's going to sign them and use them, let them go, man. Let them go play. Nobody's dream is to be on the NFL freaking practice squad. Yeah, you're going to chase it and you're going to do whatever the hell you got to do. Look at Emmanuel Mosley. Look at Ross Dwelly. There's so many different guys. Daniel Brunskill. There's so many guys. You love this, but your goal shouldn't be to stay on the practice squad. That's not what it is. Okay, now back to this idea of moving players up and down, because again, you have a 53-man roster, 47 of which are active, right? Now what they've changed this year, again, this is a COVID thing, you get a bump 2 up from your practice squad to make active every single week. Every week. Now, again, lots of caveats. So you can promote any of the 16 guys up to your active roster just for 1 week. So they jump up, they get a bump in pay. Practice squad players make just over $7,000 a week. And again, that's just for those 16 weeks. So it's not like you make 7,000 times 52 weeks. You don't get that much money. It's just for the 16-week season. So if you're on practice squad, you get about $7,000. Now, if you get bumped up, if you're one of the 2 guys that get bumped up, now you get that $12,000 a week for that check per week, per game week. So again, you get a bump 2 guys up, so 53 turns into 55. One of them has to be an offensive lineman. That's going to be Hronis Grasu. They've already told us that. It's protected. They chose to protect him. We don't have a center outside of Ben Garland who's injured. Hronis is going to be promoted this week. But what happens is, after they get promoted, they get bumped back down to the practice squad the following week, and you can only promote a guy twice a year. Twice a year, that's it. So let's say we promote Hronis Grasu, the center, to come in because we're weak at center because Ben Garland's probably not going to play week 1. Okay? Then we say week 2, we promote him again because still we're not rushing Ben Garland back, but we don't want to put him on IR. Let's just bump him up again. You cannot promote Grasu the rest of the year if you're the 49ers. You either have to sign him to the active 53 or you've got to keep him on the practice squad. And again, if he goes out and balls out, and then another team tries to claim him, now the 49ers are going to have a choice to make because you're going to have to bump that guy up if you want to keep him. You got to put him on the roster. So it's one of those just extra chess piece scenarios, which again, anytime logic and strategy go into play, the 49ers are ahead of everybody else. Kyle Shanahan is exceptional for a reason. I understand John Lynch. I understand that he won General Manager of the Year, and rightfully so, but understand those moves. Kyle Shanahan's the architect, guys. This is Kyle Shanahan's show, not John Lynch. And I love John Lynch, but that's just kind of the way that it is. So hopefully that helps us understand all those different things. So just real quick review of those things. 16 practice squads, 6 can be vets, which we have all 6 there. You get to protect 4. The 4 the 49ers chose to protect in week 1. And again, they can change. So you can protect somebody else week 2. And you can protect somebody else, or you can protect the same people all year. There's not a number on how many times you can protect a player. Center Hronis Grasu, cornerback Dante Johnson, dang it, defensive end Dion Jordan, and wide receiver Kevin White. So those guys, that's kind of where they're at. Practice squad, again, 2 players get promoted every single week, but they can only be promoted twice throughout the calendar year. Now this moves on to one of my favorite segments that we have going on this week, the Rising Player of the Week, brought to you by none other than Blue Chew, baby. This episode is brought to you by Blue Chew. Guys, do you remember back when you were always ready to go? Well, guess what? Now you can increase your performance and your confidence in the bedroom. Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. And so here's the deal. Because it's in chewable form, you can take it whenever. Empty stomach, late at night, whenever, and it acts faster. So Blue Chew is prescribed online by licensed physicians, so you don't have to go to the doctor's office and wait in line at the pharmacy. All it does is ship right to your door in a very discreet package. There's no more awkwardness or anything. So just head over to bluechew.com. And here's the thing. Because they support our podcast, we have a special offer. If you use promo code 49ers, 49ERS, you get your first shipment for free to try it out. All you have to do is cover the $5 for shipping, and it'll come right to your door. Again, that's bluechew.com, promo code 49ers to try it for free. Now, I will say this as well. The best way to support this podcast is by supporting our sponsors. And I do want to say thank you to Blue Chew for always supporting this podcast. We've had a long relationship with them, and it helps us put out more content. So I do want to say thank you. And again, if you want to support the podcast, this is a great way to do that. Again, bluechew.com, promo code 49ers. Thank you so much for the support again. All right. So our Rising Player of the Week, man, it's JaMycal Hasty. Good Lord. Last time that we were together on this podcast, I was a little down. I was a little scared because the whole idea of losing some of these, rookies, whether undrafted, 7th-round picks, whatever, that's scary stuff. You want these guys because these are the future stars. How I got my start covering the 49ers and podcasting and writing, all those things, it was the draft. The draft has always been kind of my baby. And then if you add to it, you break down all this film, you spend so much time watching these guys, doing research, calling sources, and getting to know them. Man, whenever they get let go, you take it personal. It's just what it is. So the fact that JaMycal Hasty got, claimed by the 49ers, put back on the practice squad is huge because it just takes one injury, and this guy's on the active roster. So the fact that we got him back is great. Now, one thing that's really, really important is if you look at, kind of everything that's going on with who the 49ers just chose to protect, it tells you a lot. Because they're not worried about losing rookies. Nobody wants rookies that haven't practiced and there's no film. There's just too much of a gamble. And if you look historically at the NFL, on average, just over 50 players get claimed right after cut downs from the top down to the 53. Usually 50 players or more get claimed every year. Guess how many players got claimed this week? 17. 1-7. So NFL teams just were not that interested in taking, underdeveloped talent when they didn't have film on them. And I think that's why JaMycal Hasty was able to do what happened. And you were able to stash him back. And so much so, the 49ers aren't even protecting him. I personally would protect him because I think he has a role here in this league, especially in this offense. But they chose not to. Now, if you look at other guys, fullback Josh Hockett, he is kept as well. I think, again, another very, very important player to the future of the 49ers, because if he can prove what he did in training camp and develop into a little bit more of a receiving threat, he gives you a little bit of flexibility with Kyle Juszczyk. Now, obviously, nobody wants to watch Kyle Juszczyk leave, but this is the last year of his deal. He's getting over $5 million. We already know about cap issues moving on to next year. Yeah, they freed up some space, and I think they will do so again. But whenever you look at, you only have one cornerback signed going into the 2021 year. There's definitely going to be some movement, some new signings and all that stuff. He's just an option. So again, don't hear that I think Josh Hockett's better than Kyle Juszczyk. There's no world that exists. But do you want to continue paying over $5 million a year for a fullback? Most NFL teams don't even have a fullback. Most NFL teams don't pay running backs $5 million a year. So this is just one of those things that's interesting to me. It does give you some flexibility. He's got to develop a lot more. Chase Harrell's another option that could fit into that role as well. But as teams move forward, you have to have a backup plan and then a backup to the backup plan. What if Kyle, Juszczyk gets hurt? You've got to have those things. Hockett figures into that role at some point with the 49ers in a doomsday scenario. So I think that's important. You've got Hronis Grasu, who we talked about, Chase Harrell, tight end. Again, another guy that's very, very, he fits exactly the mentality and everything that they want to do at the tight end position. But man, there's just so many bodies ahead of him. Obviously you got Kittle. Then there's a huge chasm. Jordan Reed fulfills kind of the wide receiver role from the tight end position, plus health. I don't think he's a long-term option. But then you're looking at Charlie Warner and Ross Dwelley. Ross Dwelley was a bubble guy that a lot of pundits didn't have making the 53. So glad that he did. But if you look at kind of where Chase Harrell is, he wants to replicate what Ross Dwelley did. Spend this year on the practice squad, develop. Maybe if Jordan Reed doesn't come back, maybe if Ross Dwelley doesn't come back, he can fight for that tight end 3 role and develop into that. Juwan Jennings, obviously the 7th round wide receiver. Gosh, people love him. The film is amazing. Personality's just right on cue, right on point. Amazing kid. Again, another guy I would have protected, but the 49ers have shown they are protecting people who can contribute right now. Right now. And again, if you look at the wide receiver that they did choose over Juwan Jennings, it was Kevin White, who's only been there for like a week and a half. So, whenever you're talking about the 2 guys that they're going to promote, if I had my guess, it's going to be Hronis Grasu, and then it's going to be Dion Jordan. But I think Kevin White would be number 3. Because, again, if we look at injuries, which now I'm jumping forward, but that's okay, we're not sure that Brandon Ayuk is going to be a go for week 1. We're not sure Deebo Samuel is going to be a go for week 1. So if you're down those 2 wide receivers, do you promote somebody like Kevin White, who may not have all the familiarity to this offense, but he's that kind of backup role? You know what I mean? I don't think there's any way, even if Ayuk, who I think will play, Debo, who I don't think will play, but that's okay. We'll see what happens. They find out today, so we could get the news as this podcast is going out. But the whole idea is this. You have to prepare for contingencies, and luckily the 49ers are more, let's see here. They're able to move forward much easily without wide receivers than any other team in the NFL because of how they use tight ends, because of how they use fullbacks, because they have receiving options at the wide receiver position, versatility. So even if you only had 3 healthy wide receivers, the 49ers offense would be just fine. Even if those 3 healthy wide receivers were were Dante Pettis, Kendrick Bourne, and Trent Taylor, you would be able to go through with your game plan. You'd have to make some adjustments, but they're going to be just fine there. Now, moving on, another wide receiver. So they kept 3 wide receivers, on this practice squad. River Craycraft, who they saw some things that they really like from this kid. I still think that he's far out from where they want him to be in a contributing status, but they saw something because he wasn't one of the original that they brought in. They brought back River over some guys that they signed and paid some key money to out of Notre Dame. I don't want to throw any shade on people, but he kind of came out and he elevated his game and they liked it. Offensive lineman William Sweet, defensive lineman Darion Daniels, who they like a lot, very versatile guy, still raw. I talked about Dion Jordan. I think he's going to be called up week 1 just because, again, you look at that edge position. Dion Jordan was a bubble roster guy. He almost got in. Kerry Hyder beat him out, which I'm super psyched about. But if you have 1 or 2 injuries to the edge position, Dion Jordan's a guy that could contribute. Really, really could, especially whenever you look at the fact that Blair's out for the first 6 weeks. Nick Bosa's fine. He's been back at practice, but, if for some reason he tweaks his hamstring or something like that, if it's not 100% healed, you have backups to go. Joe Walker, linebacker, amazing special team player. Again, another guy that almost made it. They chose to go with Demetrius Flanagan-Foles over him. But Joe Walker, he is a guy that if you need help with special teams or linebacking help, he can step in. He is a veteran guy that could do it. Tim Harris, he's one of the guys I would have protected. But again, no film. And so it does seem like there's no film on you. Nobody wants you. It's just not the time for that. So Tim Harris, he skates by non-protected this week. So again, somebody could just claim him. Hopefully they don't, because I think Tim Harris, they want him back next year, but he's still a ways out. Then we got 2 safeties, Jared Mayden and Jonathan Cyprian, which I think you could argue we have more talent at the safety position on our practice squad than a few teams do actually on their active roster. The depth that this team legitimately has 6 safeties that are pretty damn good. Now, I don't think Jared Mayden is a guy that's ready to start in the NFL or anywhere near that, but he fulfills a role. He has a type, and I think that he has a place in the NFL. It's just not now. Jonathan Cyprian, again, most interceptions through training camp besides Richard Sherman. He was hoping to get picked up, but it just didn't happen. I did think that he would be one of the protected players. He wasn't. And I think a big reason why is because we have 4 healthy safeties in front of him on the active roster. So even if you lose one safety due to injury, you still got another guy. And they're all versatile because, again, all 4 of our safeties can play both safety spots. They've all had experience in it. Now, probably the least likely would be putting Tarvarius Moore at the strong safety position. But Jaquaski Tart, he can play free or strong. Marcel Harris, free or strong. Jimmy Ward, free or strong. And nickel. So a lot of versatility there. So you're still probably an injury away from Jonathan Cyprian having a role here. But, you look at that. Okay, let's step back and let's look at the guys we kept. What guys did we not choose to bring back? Really just 6 guys that were cut on that final day of cut downs. Marquise Gray, the tight end. Alex Barrett. Cameron Malvo. Jared Jones-Smith, who I think just got picked up, actually. I just got a notification. He just got claimed by somebody. Sean Point Dexter, the wide receiver who's been with us forever. And Jamar Taylor, who was the number 1 nickel, getting all the number 1 reps. When K'Wan Williams was out, he got cut and they didn't even bring him back. I thought that was a little bit of a shocker. And I think it goes to show you this. The coaching staff is not scared to figure out who a player is and who they're not. They threw him in there for 10 straight days with the number ones and then cut him and didn't even bring him back when they could have. So, they took the shot. Can this guy be somebody that can contribute for us? They established no, and they moved on. And it cost, 10 weeks in training camp, but you take it and you move on. That's kind of what it is. And sometimes you kind of got to gamble with those things. And speaking of gambling, let's move on to our next sponsor. Here we go, baby. Winning seasons return at MyBookie. Winning season means doubling your first deposit. Winning season means Survivor, Super Contest, Squares, you name it, they have it at MyBookie. And here's the deal. Whenever you're hitting on all of your parlays with your feet up on the couch, enjoying watching the 49ers win, of course, you get to trounce your rivals, brag about it, and make money. And that's what MyBookie brings to us. And I love these guys. They've supported us for a long time. Really do appreciate all they do. So here's the deal. Invest in your intuition. Use promo code 49ers, 49ERS, and double your first deposit. New players get up to $1,000 in free play. Designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. Head over there. They've got live betting on championship futures. You want to put money down on if the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl, if they're going to win the NFC West, how far they're going to go in the playoffs. All of those things and more are available at mybookie.ag. So it's simple. Make your picks, win big, collect your cash, and again, use promo code 49ers and double your first deposit. Your winning season begins today at mybookie.ag. All right, and we got a good one for you today. They just put out, this just happened a few days ago. So whether you're with MyBookie or you're not, or you're thinking about it, whatever, here's the deal. I hate the Chiefs. I freaking hate them. I can't stand them. But the one thing I do like is free money. They're giving the Chiefs, who have the opening game Thursday, so depending on when you're listening to this, head over there right away, a 54-point spread. So they're giving the Kansas City Chiefs versus Houston plus 54 points, which means they have to lose by 55 points to lose. Okay. No way the Chiefs lose by over 55 points. So the score would have to be 20-75 and they would barely not cover. So here's the deal. They only let you do this for a bet of up to $50. So you bet 50, you win 45. There's no way in hell this is not going to happen. It's one of their extra promos that they're doing to get new accounts going. So that's 45 free dollars. So even if you don't like this podcast, hopefully head over there, sign up with, there's nothing tied to it either. So the promo code to double your deposit has a rollover. You can call their customer service. They'll explain it to you much better than I will. But if you just open an account and put in $50 using promo code 49ers, help the podcast out, you're going to win that 45 and then be able to cash out. So that's there for you. And again, it's a $50 max bet. You win 45. No way in hell the Chiefs lose by 54 points. Anyway, head over there. Now, I will say this. We are going to do a couple more 49ers bet specific things over the next 2 episodes because, again, man, it's time to start game planning, man. It's time to go over, predictions, matchups to look for, keys to the game. Those are the next 2 episodes. I'm going to do one on the offense, our offense versus their defense, and vice versa. Really, really excited about that. I already dug into a little bit of the game plan for both those teams, just history, schemes, and stuff like that. So going to be a lot of fun. And then you look at what the Cardinals just did. They just signed Deandre Hopkins to the largest contract for any non-quarterback in NFL history. And so this is huge. Week 1, you're going to have the highest paid wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, against an undrafted free agent in Emmanuel Mosley on the defensive right side, or Richard Sherman. It's going to be entertainment, guys. I'm so pumped about it. So we've got that stuff coming. But before we do that, I want to go over some news and some IR rules, some new developments as well with the CBA. Injured reserve has continued to change. Last year, you could designate 2 players to return, and it had to happen after 8 weeks. Well, this year, they scrapped that completely. Because of COVID and just the turnover of rosters that's going to be taking place, they said, look, you can have unlimited players return from injured reserve, and in only 3 weeks. This is huge. We're going to see this a lot. If a guy sprains his ankle, You don't have to go through that whole, man, what do we do? He's going to be ready in a month. Blah, blah, blah. Nope. From now on, somebody gets injured, they go to IR. Now, what we have to do as fans is understand once you get that, ESPN or whatever, notification on your phone saying, oh, so-and-so's to IR, you got to chill. That's 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks they're out. Now, obviously, they can be out longer than that, but every single player can return after 3 weeks. So this tells us a lot about the current injury status for 49ers. You look at Deebo Samuel. Guess what? He was a guy that could have, been a PUP or an NFI candidate. He wasn't. Soon as the 53 hit, they could have put him on IR for 3 weeks, and he would have missed weeks 1, 2, and 3. Came back week 4, but they didn't. Same thing with Ayuk. Same thing with Ben Garland. So that tells us they're much more optimistic and, pretty excited about where these guys are coming back and where their rehab is. So this is a lot of really, really good news. So a couple things we have to constantly remind ourselves this year. Chill out. IR does not mean what it used to mean. It's like a 4-letter word, even though it's 2 letters. It's not that big of a deal anymore. It's very similar to baseball. For those of you, the 15-day DL, and just how you got some bumps and bruises, chill out, come back. And the cool thing about it is you can't lose them once they're on IR, and you get to bump somebody else up to the active roster. So that's huge in there. Just the revolving roster that's going to take place this year across the entire NFL. We've never seen anything like it. So just get ready. There's going to be roster moves galore, which this is probably the worst season in the history of the NFL to be a rookie. But if you are one of the few that actually made it this far and on a practice squad, you're going to get a chance at some point this year. So for those of you, the people that actually made it, congratulations. The people that are on the fringe, it sucks, man. I hate to see it. I really, really do hate to see it. Now, a couple other things. Fred Warner is still on the reserve/COVID list. They released, he was the only player in the past 10 days to be put on this, and he's one of the only few players still on this, but we haven't heard anything. The good news is the 49ers have not filled that 53rd roster spot. And so it seems like they expect him to be back. We'll have to just wait and see. They don't have to release any information just because of FERPA rules and HIPAA rules and all that kind of stuff. Like you don't have to share the medical stuff unless Fred Warner wants to. It's up to him. He hasn't shared anything. So we just kind of have to shrug our shoulders and just say, we don't know. Now, what if he doesn't play? Well, thankfully, there's 2 positions that are just stacked with depth, and that's the linebackers and that's the running back, where I don't think any key injury or one person gone from either of those groups would hurt the 49ers. Fred Warner, I think, is the best linebacker in football. Are we the same team without him? Hell no. But whenever you look at the people that would step up in a situation, we are definitely not hurting and still are probably a top 16 linebacking core in the NFL, even without Fred Warner. Your starters, you're going to have Quan Alexander, you're going to have Dre Greenlaw, and you're probably going to put Azeez Al-Shahar in there as well. So just for the 4-3 base, for nickel packages, it's going to be Quan and Dre Greenlaw, which, man, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's a great group of guys. Hopefully we get Fred back. We could definitely use him this week for sure, but with him not being there, it's kind of what it is. So anyway, that's going to do it for us today. I really appreciate everybody and all the support. Now, I got one more thing before I let you go. I need your help. The 49ers Rush podcast, here's the deal. We had to switch podcast hosting sites, which just a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes, but no big deal. But what happened was it changed the algorithm for iTunes and a couple other podcasts. And man, we bumped down. We were number 1 or 2 on every single podcasting site, where if you just typed in 49ers, we were number 1 or 2. It dropped us down to 5, 6, or 7 on some sites, including iTunes. So here's what I want to do, and I'm pretty excited about this. We need you to give us a 5-star review, and I want you to share your story. And I'm going to share some of these on the air. Pretty excited about this, actually. Share the story on how you personally became a 49ers fan, and it could be something simple. It could be elaborate, whatever. Please put that on there. Share your name on there. 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. iTunes is the most helpful by far, but wherever it is you listen to, try to leave a review. And if you've already left a review in the past one, I want to say thank you. But man, sign up under your wife's thing and leave a review there. because we got to get back to where we belong. I don't think that we are the 7th best podcast. There's so many great podcasts out there. But so anyway, help us out. I'm going to read through those. I want to share some of those stories because, again, our fan base, faithful then, faithful now, that's who we are. The stories that we have out there, they're beautiful. And we need to share those. And especially if you have a family and you're trying to get your little ones to jump into here, sharing those stories, that's how you do it. People are attracted to stories about other people joining things. They want to be a part of the community. So let's help them get in there. And so I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. So please go rate, review the show with your personal story on how you became a 49ers fan. I'll share some of those on air. And we will be back breaking down the game this week, baby. It's close. We're getting close. Thanks, faithful. And as always, stay strong.